actually back up to where we have the Salesforce and the social enterprise?
Sure. There.
So as we turn to Sherrick, I think the framework is useful in a way that we want to bring out right now, which is many of us are in the business of designing business strategy, designing the parameters that go into it, designing the stakeholders and the partnerships that have to go into it. And we can look at it in classical ways based upon value chain, but as more and more of the world is digitally communitized, if you'll allow me to use a word, what is becoming clearer is that you do not have a product portfolio or a service portfolio. You have your product or service portfolio and then a community of ecosystems that are going to keep that vibrant. And the segue to Salesforce is when someone says Salesforce today, right? Salesforce is not a large company vis-a-vis Amazon, which is at 72 billion and will by 2015 will be the fastest company in the history of the world to hit 100 billion. Or Apple, which is at 100 billion with 80 billion in war chest reserves. Yet the gravitas of Salesforce, whether it be SaaS, whether it be around employee-to-employee collaboration, will it be around energizing very large communities to say, I'm with them. I don't know where they're going to take it, but I'm going to bet on them in their fast growth mode. Shows that it doesn't matter where you are in the form of size, you can fall. Microsoft has struggled for quite some time and will probably regain a champion status in time, but it has struggled for a long time. And yet, when one talks about Salesforce today, there's no doubt about it. They have a strategy, they have a platform, they are transparent with their communities, and they are expanding the number of communities that they're able to engender. So with that, Sherrick, you are involved in this. How does Salesforce look at the market today and what else it can do?
That's a good question. I kind of want to start with polling the audience. So, and actually to kind of see how much you know about Salesforce. How many of you use database.com, which is a new offering we just announced? Anyone? Okay. How many of you use force.com, the platform? Okay. How many of you use the traditional salesforce.com CRM products? Right. So actually, all of you use the force.com platform, and all of you use actually database.com. All of our applications are built leveraging the platform. So every single API, every single object, et cetera, that's in the platform that you would use to build your own custom apps, we use to build our own applications as you use today. Same with the database. So we've abstracted the database, and the database now is a platform. And so every single user of Salesforce, the traditional CRM products, is actually a user on those platforms today. Now every single application, you talk about ecosystems and communities. The App Exchange is a great example of where we have millions of applications that are built on the platform. And they're available through an exchange, very much like the Apple Store, the App Store, where you can go in, you can find out about them, you can rate them, you can learn about them, et cetera, and then you can download them and use them, and you can go buy them. And these applications are anything from the simplest of tweaking or cleaning your lead database to CA and Ariba and BMC, who have written new applications on the platform for them to commercially resell to their customers. So that element of the platform now is taking the platform and trying to reach out into a community, which is, I would say, we've really ramped that up in the last 2 years, and now we're in the millions of apps, and it's quite successful and frankly a lot of fun because we get to engage with a lot of not just customers, but also software companies building on the platform.
Sure. Do you want to list some of the categories? Because I actually list them in the book here, and I was amazed researching Force.com at the variety of applications people have built.
Yeah, I mean, it's from HR to procurement. I mean, things you wouldn't even think about being associated with Salesforce, right? Who thinks of HR when you think of Salesforce? You're thinking about selling. HR's in there, procurement's in there.
You got a few more.
You got a few more, yeah. You can read them if you want. But, Supply chain is actually another one. PLM. I mean, there's just all sorts of apps that are going in there today. I did want to touch on, though, there's sort of another layer of platform, which is the social platform. And today, in the social environment, everything is social, social, social. And Adrian, you brought up a good point. It's all about the consumer, right? It's all about the individual. It's no longer about the corporation. You don't build apps for the corporation to build something, produce something, and then hopefully your customers will buy it, right? It's paying attention to the individual. And in today's social environment, you got to pay attention to that individual in their social world. So what is their social profile? And that's a new trend or a new wave we've taken Salesforce and our customers. And it's becoming a social enterprise. And it's not the company becoming social, because that's, okay, you could tweet inside your company. It's paying attention to the individual and their social needs. So, for example, what is an individual doing on Twitter? What are they saying about you on Facebook? What are they doing about you in your online community, et cetera? And paying attention to that, because it's amazing even today how many CEOs are flabbergasted when they see that people are actually talking about them on Twitter, talking about them on Facebook. Even B2B companies, right? You could be building tractors for vacuum cleaners for big offices or whatever. And I guarantee you, there is a conversation about that company going on somewhere in that environment. So you have to pay attention to the public social networks about your customer and what those individuals are doing and saying about you. You have to today. It's ridiculous. I mean, your customer support line is what? Number 10 on the list of priorities of what people want, how they want to interact with you. They want to hear you from Twitter. They want to talk to you on Facebook. So you have to be doing that around the individual and what they're doing. And then how do you collaborate to service that individual, right? So you take a look at whether you're going to sell to them, where you're going to service them, what's that 360-degree view, what's the social profile of that customer, and how do you collaborate within your company, so an internal social network, around servicing that customer. And many times it's 24/7, right? It's not just, you can't think of servicing a customer as your call center anymore. Again, it's one of 10 different ways to service your customer. I had a great interaction with Comcast, who happens to be a Salesforce customer, where I was tweeting something negative about them. Just happened to be, this was years ago, so they've done much better. But I piled onto someone else's tweet, and sure enough, Comcast, who's been a leader in terms of Twitter and service management, got right back to me. What can we do, or how can we help, et cetera. 2 months later, I actually had to call them because something had gone down. Comcast is great, but sometimes things go wrong. I called them, and the customer service agent said, "Hey, did we ever resolve that post that you did on Twitter?"
Wow.
Kind of look at the phone, like, wow. And they had matched up my email from Twitter to my email that's in the account. I mean, that's 2 segments, right? Today, we can match up 10 to 20 different pieces of your life into a social profile about you, though. So we understand, what are you saying about us? What are you doing about us? Are you influential? So you might turn that around and go, well, there's these 100 influential people that maybe we want to market to as opposed to just service. So paying attention to that social profile is very key. And that's how you get customers into being a social enterprise. And then lastly, it's how do you build the innovative apps that really pay attention to the customer? So it's the iPad, right? We are asked every single day by customers, how do we integrate the iPad? What do we do with the iPad? And every single day we are building new apps that tie right into our platform, but go and interact directly with customers. Whether you're selling and you've got price lists, you're servicing and you're writing up invoices, whatever it is, the iPad now is engaged in that conversation with the consumer. So that's just one device, right? There's mobile. There's of course Cisco has their own devices, which are I'm sure fantastic. But it's those innovative apps that weren't possible 18 months ago, right? That are not just mobile, but they're also social, so that gamification is involved, right? Gamification is a part of being social. It's, when you go to someone's website now to go get service, you can win badges and you can have prizes. You get on a top 10 list, and guess what? Now next thing you know, you've been there for 10 minutes, and you're like, I came here to get help. Now I'm winning badges. But it's addictive. And so all the elements of social are into these apps, and they've never been around before. And so that's what we talk about. We talk about the social enterprise, and it's really paying attention to that individual and how you service them as a corporation.
Can I jump in here for a sec?
Sure, please.
And that's probably one of the reasons you guys bought Radian 6, right?
Absolutely. They were and still are, of course, the leading social media monitoring tool to help you take that fire hose of information. Because if you think about everything that's going on in Twitter and Facebook and the blogosphere, et cetera, and how do you monitor that? How do you find out what's going on about Comcast every single second of the day? And it's been a fantastic move for us because it really ties into the social enterprise piece of how to truly service and sell to and look at that individual customer in the social media world.
And that makes so much sense because whether I'm a big company or a small company, I'm thinking about my choice of platforms because no disrespect to Force.com and Salesforce, but it's not certainly the only one.
Right.
But if you've got all of the planks, why do I want to go someplace else? And I can build new ones.
Yeah, I mean, what we've tried to do with the platform is include things into it. So it's not just, you're not just getting a box or a server or whatever, you're getting things built into it. So you get access to the social elements. So when you build an app on Force.com, you get the feed that you get in Chatter. So if any of you use Salesforce and use Chatter, the feeds, the groups that look and act a lot like Facebook, I wonder why. 700 million people prove you right. It's a good model to follow. So you take that, and then offer that in the platform so that when you go build your own app, you don't have to rebuild that, right? You don't have to build groups. You don't have to build follow. You don't have to write your own follow button. You don't have to build the feed and the security that goes behind that and the privacy and everything else. It's all there. So you build your app. You've already made it social without having to build anything new, and it's laid out for you. Right. Then you eventually we'll tie in social media monitoring into that, and there's more and more and more that you want to offer as part of that platform.
Right. And the interesting thing, at least from my perspective, and John, we talked about this at lunch, it doesn't have to be the best of breed social plank or tool. If it's good enough, why do I want to go outside of it? Not saying that it isn't the best of breed, but you know what I'm saying. You don't have to cobble together a bunch of disparate parts with a whole bunch of spaghetti architecture. Everything's on Force.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. That's a good point.